And we're back. This is the great classic movie debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
And I'm Steve.
And we talk anything and everything pertaining to movies. We like all kinds of movies. We try to have fun. We also try to keep it interesting. If you're watching right now, please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out our sister channel, The Great Classic Rock Debate. Okay, gentlemen. You guys are going to love this. So several weeks ago, we were just sort of doing some random talk about movies, stuff that we had seen. And Steve, you've got I guess the monthly pass thing or whatever you've got. So you go movies probably more regularly, definitely more regularly than me and probably Paul
Me
too.
as well. Yeah.
Okay. So you threw out the name Gran Turismo. Okay. Now, I honestly, when you mentioned it, I knew virtually nothing about it other than I think that's the name of a video game, right?
Yep.
But I didn't know anything about the movie. I might have seen one ad, but I really knew nothing whatsoever about it. Now, because I've never, ever been into video games, that's right. I am not a gamer. I'm not a gamer. So because of that, I kind of figured probably not so much for me. And there was a movie a few years ago. You guys probably saw it, and I might have the name wrong. It's called Ready Player One or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I saw that, and I thought it was decent, even though for me, it's not a movie I really would want to see twice. But I went in with no expectations, and I kind of liked it. So when I heard you say Gran Turismo, like that was the first thing I thought of. So I thought, okay, I would probably see it, but just not unless there was nothing better to choose from. All right. So, but other than that, I don't know a single thing what this movie's about. So Saturday night, in this house, Saturday night is date night. All right. So Saturday night, we go out to dinner and all that. And then we're looking for maybe a movie to watch. So I always pull up Rotten Tomatoes and then I filter it with PG movies because you guys know we got to watch the salty language, right? So I'm looking at the PG movies. Oh, and also I should mention, correct me if your experience has been different, but the better movies, not just what critics think, but what we think, the better movies tend to be R-rated. Isn't that true?
Or PG-13.
Okay. But once you eliminate the animations, and a lot of those are good, but once you eliminate those, the better movies are disproportionately R-rated. Okay.
Especially back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah. Not now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So once you filter on PG and PG-13, whatever, I think I look at both of those. You take away a lot of the movies with better ratings, right? On Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm looking over, and there's first 3 or 4 or 5 I look at, either they're not appealing or they got low scores, and then I see Gran Turismo. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Steve liked it, and I think it got like a 75 on Rotten Tomatoes, which is it's a pretty good score. If it's 60 or above, they consider that a fresh tomato, right? And if it's below 60, it's a rotten tomato. Listen, over 20-something years, I have found that to be a pretty accurate barometer of how I'm going to take the movie. Yes, Paul.
Just refresh me because I don't know. The ratings are based on the viewers' responses, not the jackass critics, right?
No, both. They give it 2 separate scores. One is the critic score and one is the viewer score. And they didn't always have that. There was a time they didn't have the viewers score, but they've added it. And typically, well, you know what? It just depends. On movies that the critics hate, the viewer score will be a little higher. And on movies that movie critics are overwhelmingly liberal. And they do let that color their opinion of a movie,
And so, they don't even judge it. Where it used to be 20 years ago, I would value a movie critic's opinion. Now I give it zero thought. In fact, if they say a movie is good, I know that I'm probably not going to like it because it has a political slant to it.
And especially if the score is too high.
Yeah,
that's when I go, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Like all 90 of those Iraq war movies that nobody saw, and they all got 100, So
Oh my
anyway,
God.
so Gran Turismo, Steve had recommended it, and it's got a 75. So I said, okay, listen, let's just give this a try. If we don't like it, we don't like it, but yeah, we'll give it a try. All right. So we agreed. I should also mention that my wife at times gets emotionally wrapped up in movies. And when she does, she starts doing the fist pumping and the,
There you go.
yeah.
Love it.
So Paul, remember Rocky Balboa, where he fights Mason Dixon. I forget the guy's name in real life. In the movie, Rocky is like 55 or whatever.
Rocky Balboa. I think Rocky 6, essentially.
Correct. Which for me exceeded all expectations by a mile. So what happens in the film, in the second round, Mason Dixon, Antonio, I forget his real name, he breaks it. Yeah, he breaks his hand. He throws a punch that lands on Rocky's hip, and he breaks his hand, and he's hurt. And when he's hurt, Rocky just unloads a can of whoop ass on. He is going to town on him. And my wife is losing her mind. Oh my God. It was like it was a real fight. Man, it was great. So anyway, my point is, once she gets emotionally drawn into a movie, man, she's not quiet. So we went into this movie with no expectations, whatever. So when it starts, and right away, we see the kid playing the video game or whatever, I'm kind of like, oh, geez, it really is a movie about some kid who plays video games. That's a very unfair description, I might add, but that's just what it seemed like at first. But wow, what a pleasant surprise. I mean, I thought it was great. And we loved every second of it. And yeah, by the end of the movie, she was getting loud and jumping up and down and everything. So when it was all said and done, I can't recommend this movie enough. Now I want to qualify that with, it's not an Oscar type of movie. It's not that. It's just a movie to pull you in and pump up your adrenaline. And I think it's based on a true story. Isn't that right, Steve?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And even though that phrase has to be used with a little care based on real events, it can mean almost anything. And I don't know how true this one was or wasn't, but man, it was a great movie and I recommend it. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor, go see it. You're really going to like it.
Well, I'm going to say something before Steve does. But, I haven't seen it. And the reason, unless Steve told me to see it, I'm not seeing it. Or you, Kenny. In other words, I don't trust anything Hollywood puts out. I trust nothing. And therefore, I'm not going to go see it until Steve, who's a sacrificial lamb, like, go ahead, Steve, you watch it first. Like,
right.
Hey, Stevie, he likes it, right?
Right.
So go ahead, Steve. Sorry, I just want to say that.
No, that's a fair point, Paul. I would say I wasn't going to see it until there's another website out there or YouTube channel called Film Threat, run by a guy named Chris Gore, who actually reviewed one of my movies 20 some years ago and actually liked it.
Wow.
So I have a lot of good things to say about him. They gave really positive reviews about it. And I thought, it's a movie about a video game. Those video game movies are notoriously known for being horrible.
Right.
But the director around this has got some good things under his belt. And so I don't know how much of it is based on a true story. I know that they had a contest, is my understanding. A Gran Turismo, for those people who are not familiar with it, is a video game that's on the PlayStation, Sony PlayStation. And apparently they had a contest several years ago where, and it's not necessarily, Gran Turismo is a video game, but it's more like a simulator. And so the group of people that placed the highest in this competition were invited to participate and try to become a race car driver on the I don't know if it's the GT circuit or what. I'm ignorant to that.
Right.
Is it open wheel? Like it's not NASCAR.
It's not NASCAR and it's not F1.
Oh, it's not F1. Okay. All right.
Well,
Go ahead.
I know that one of the races, in fact, it was the final race of the movie, was Le Mans. So
Yeah.
whatever that is.
That is Formula One.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not IndyCar.
Yeah. Because Le Mans is like an endurance race, 24 hours, or it used to
Right.
be.
Yeah,
Right.
but these are like they're not stock cars. It's kind of in between IndyCar
Okay,
and
yeah.
stock car.
I don't know
think.
the terms either.
So
Well, the car that they drove in the final race at Le Mans was different than the car he had been driving
that's
earlier.
true. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a race car. That's all I know. That's
Yeah, that's all I know too.
It's
Yeah.
a race car.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
anyways, so they bring these guys in, they go through the whole training, and then they select one to participate for Nissan. And again, I didn't know this, that apparently you have to place at a certain level in a race in order to get your driver's license to drive on these racetracks or in these races. And so this is kind of based on a true story. I think most of this happened, again, probably very loosely.
Right.
But the big accident that did occur in the movie, that was a real life event, or it's based heavily on a real life event. I don't know if that was the driver from that car, in the movie. I don't know if it was in real life, if that was him or not. I think it may have been, if my memory serves me correctly from watching kind of the end credits.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they took these kids who would basically learn to drive in a simulator and then went through this training.
Right.
And you think like, oh, they're going to pick a couple of 300-pound overweight kids from the United States drinking Mountain Dew, eating Doritos. That's not really what happens. So,
right.
But yeah, it's a good movie.
Well, now my other question is it all CGI or what?
There's some CGI in it, but I don't know to the extent.
Well, the movie that like Paul Newman's in with Le Mans, right? It's called Le Mans. I can't remember anymore.
No, you're right. Yeah.
There was no CGI back then, and that's what made these movies incredible.
Yeah, I mean, although they did a lot of that on the Atari 2600.
Funny, Steve. That was good.
No, there is some CGI in it because of the fact that there's a video game element, and so at times they were trying to make it look like kind of like a video game to give that the driver's point of view of him like focusing in on like what he remembered through the simulator. Because he's like, I've driven this track 200 times before. I know it better than the actual guys who are driving it. And his pit crew is telling him to drive it a certain way, and he's like, no, just trust me. I've done this 200 times. And finally, they let him drive it the way he wants to, and he wins or does it the correct way. So
yeah, it's compelling. It really is. Now, I also want to say a word or two about the actor's name is, I got it right here, David Harbour, whatever.
Yeah.
Who plays a character named Jack Salter in the movie. Now, for fans of Stranger Things, he's the sheriff in Stranger Things. Everybody knows who he is?
Yeah. Okay. He's kind of a bigger man, heavier.
Yeah, a little bit husky, whatever. Okay. Couple of things. We stay away from politics, so we're not going to.
Yeah.
This guy is a really good actor. Okay. He is, because on Stranger Things, he's phenomenal. All right. Now, the Marvel superhero movie with Scarlett Johansson, what's it called?
Black Widow.
He plays her. He's not her biological father, but he's like the guy who raised her, whatever.
Yeah.
And he plays a Russian. It's not the Crimson Dynamo, but it's the Red something or other.
Red something or other. That's it.
Okay, whatever.
But
he's just unforgettable in this movie. And the scene where he starts singing American Pie, it's classic. Oh my God. He's so good. And in this movie, he knocks it out of the park. I mean, he's great. Now, having said all of that, this guy has ruined all credits that he's built up. Every time he's interviewed for anything in real life, he just spews his liberalism. And it's like, oh, dude, you got to be kidding me. I worship you as an actor, but I can't even look at you now that you let loose of all this just nonsense and stupidity. So, I while I still applaud his acting, oh my God, it's hard to be a fan once I've listened to all of his political nonsense.
Think about what you just said. He's an actor. He's used to repeating other people's lines, and that's what he's doing when he talks. Because soon as you get one of these people, you ask a question back that they don't know the answer because they don't have one of the approved program lines. If it's not 1 through
Right.
7, I don't want to talk about the same bar.
Right.
And they just melt down because they're
Right.
just repeating lines. Like they say that in the South Park movie. And they're ripping on actors. Hi, I am Janine Garofalo,
Right.
and I'm repeating everything I heard, like
Right.
as if it's true. So that's what these people do. They can't.
Right.
Like Matt Damon.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Matt Damon.
They destroyed him. Wow. Okay, so that's all I wanted to say about David Harbour, but I also want to mention Orlando Bloom because, 20 years ago, I mean, look at the movies he made, the Lord of the Rings movies, and yes,
Pirates.
and Black Hawk Down and Troy. I mean, he was in these huge blockbuster movies, and I don't know, every girl I knew was in love with him. He was just, and then he kind of disappeared, like not totally, because I know he was still in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies or whatever, even the ones that didn't really do all that well. And he was in the second round of the Lord of the Rings movies, which didn't do. He had a smaller role, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, when I say he kind of disappeared, he just didn't have those big blockbuster hits, and so it was so unexpected to see him. And I'm like, okay, he's got to be almost 50 by now, I'm thinking. And he plays the Nissan executive who cooks up this idea of, hey, let's have a contest in which guys who excel at this video game get to come drive cars. And everybody says that's a stupid idea. And they eventually go along with it. But I thought he was great. I thought he was a great choice for the movie, and he was really good.
I think Orlando Bloom, I think a couple of things happened.
He got married.
So that happened. That's one of the couple of things. He is my age. He's born in, so he's like 46.
Okay.
So, as you generally get older in Hollywood, especially for women, not so much for males, but the roles get fewer and far between.
Right.
But sure he made turned down.
Yeah, he made Troy, and then after that he did Kingdom of Heaven, which is the Ridley Scott, which is, if you watch the director's cut version of that movie, it's far superior.
I gotta buy that
to the theatrical version, and that's probably one of my top 3 favorite movies of all time.
We just watched that like 2 weeks ago. That is a fantastic movie, really good.
Yeah, I mean, they cut out like a third of the movie in the theatrical release, and this whole plot line, and but my point being, in the theaters, it didn't do well, and then after that, they released his third Pirates of the Caribbean movie, and it kind of wrapped up his storyline. And after that, I think they were like, well, he can't really carry a movie on his own. I think that because of the failure of Kingdom of Heaven. So I think that might have played a hand in kind of his.
Kingdom of Heaven is a really complex, good movie, and I enjoyed it too. But like, can you both remember in high school, Kenny? Like, I literally think they spent 17 seconds on the entire Crusades.
Oh, right. Correct. Yeah.
Like, okay, the Muslims came out here, we killed them, and then then the World War I happened.
Right. Yeah. A bunch of Christians jumped on horses and rode over there and killed off the bad guys. That's it. Yeah.
And it was exactly opposite. It was like, it's.
Well, Paul, it depends on your point of view. I mean, how far back do you want to go?
No, I don't. I'm not saying anything. It's just glazed over, all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What they don't, there's not a movie to my knowledge about Charles Martel.
Who are you related to? Go ahead and say it.
Oh, I don't know. Am I? Maybe. No, that's
Charlemagne. Your dad says. Yeah, your dad said. Okay.
Anyways.
Charles Martel. Yeah, go ahead.
Charles Martel, who defeated the Muslim invaders.
No, I don't know.
In I think it was France in 742. Or Spain, I can't remember. It's been so long. But my point is, I don't think there's ever been really a movie about that. So depending on how, that wasn't part of the Crusades, but that was kind of the first Islamic Middle Eastern invasion of Europe, anyways. So
yeah, because that's the now you're getting to Othello, right? Because the Moors invaded Spain, and it was the year 1066 they kicked the Moors out. and then yeah.
No, it was
So
742. 1066 was the Battle of Hastings in
That's-
England. We don't
Oh,
want to
no,
get off on a history legend here, but or history
no,
lesson.
hold on. But no, when did they kick the Muslims out of Spain?
That was 742, the Battle
you
of
sure?
Tours. Yeah.
All right.
So it
Go
wasn't
ahead.
France. I think Charles Martel was French and
Yes.
then fought them in Spain.
Because I'm trying to remember when Othello takes place, the Shakespearean Moor king, Desdemona, Iago, right? We all know about Iago, yes.
Yeah, maybe that is there. I've never read it, so
right,
I
go
didn't want to
ahead.
get
Go
us
ahead.
on a history tangent here.
Yeah,
so.
history and Shakespeare. But
Right.
this is a movie show.
All right. Well, I'll just, in closing
Bring it
out
back.
Gran Turismo, I'm just going to say that I thought the scene, without giving away too much, there's a scene, the parents, of course, think the son is just wasting his life with his obsession with video games. I cannot imagine any parents who wouldn't think that, He keeps telling him this is what he wants to do. He wants to race cars or whatever. And then they're just like, oh my God, he's an idiot. And when he gets this opportunity to go compete and the father is trying to talk him out of it, he says, you told me to pursue the things I love, and I'm doing exactly that. And it was a pretty strong scene right there. Yeah. And then at the end, go ahead, Steve.
I was going to say, there's one tidbit I just want to add for the viewers who may not know this. You know who his mom is in that movie?
I do not.
It's Ginger Spice.
Oh my God, that's who that was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The whole movie, I kept thinking like, man, she looks familiar. I don't know who that is. The mom, and at the end of the credits, it says Jerry Halliwell. I was like, oh my God, isn't that Ginger Spice?
Wow. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But I never would have made that connection, and that's been like 25 years for the Spice Girls. So naturally, they're getting up there now. Yeah.
Yep.
But at the end of the movie, like credits rolling time, they put up snapshots of the actor and the real person. They do that for the kid and for his mom and for his dad and for a couple of others, right? So it was just a great ending. I felt so satisfied by the time that movie ended. I enjoyed the way they told the story. There was great drama and suspense and action, and it really pulled you in, and it had a great knock it out of the park ending. So, man, I mean, Steve, I can't thank you enough for this recommendation. Seriously.
Sure. Yeah, I think I agree with everything you're saying, and I equate it to like the feeling you have when you watch Rocky or maybe Rocky 6. Because they don't necessarily, I don't want to give away everything. It's not the ending you kind of expect, but it is a very feel-good ending.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm reading this right now. It says 1492 when King Boabdil surrendered to, of course, Ferdinand Isabella. That was the end of the Moors in Spain. So that actually happened.
1492 was the conquest of paradise.
I'm reading it right off the
Christopher Colombo. Look up 742 and Charles Martel, Paul.
No, I'm not talking about Charles Martel. I'm talking about Spain. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, that's
about
when that was the
in 1502, the Spanish crown ordered all Muslims forcibly converted to Christianity. So
I think we may be talking about two different things. Yeah, but anyways, I learned something new.
Don't ever. Nissan is this is totally tangential. Like, there's a Nissan plant in my hometown right here. Not my hometown, where I live.
Yeah, that's where my Xterra was built.
And they offer these tours. You can go in there, and it is the coolest thing. You go around, they show the metal being pressed and cut, and there's like this whole area where the machines do all the cutting. If you went in there, it was like I thought I was watching the forward part of Terminator 2 where they're building the Terminators.
Right.
They're bending the machine, and you walk in there, you'd be killed because you can't walk in there. The machines are moving faster than you could see.
Imagine working in there for 12 hours a day.
Oh, I know.
Because I worked for GM when I was in college.
No, I'm just saying. No, I'm not saying I want to work there. I'm just saying it looks cool to be there for an hour, and it's dark in these rooms. It's really cool. Like,
yeah, those plants are very dangerous.
You're very dangerous.
Yeah,
I know people. In fact, I don't want to mention names, but I know somebody very close to me who saved somebody's life who went into a press while it was still running, didn't shut it off, and came about 2 inches from being decapitated. So,
oh yeah,
wow.
Yep.
Okay. Well, is there anything else on the I mean, we've probably got 5 or 10 minutes left. Is there anything else on the upcoming agenda as far as good movies that are going to be out soon or anything like that you guys have
Killers of
heard
the
about?
Flower Moon coming out this weekend. I'm
What's it
gonna
called?
probably Killers of the Flower Moon.
What's that about? I think I saw
It's
one
about
promo.
the Native American tribe and how they tried to, when they found oil there in Oklahoma, I guess all these people try to like get with the Native Americans who owned it, had the rights, so they could sell the rights and kill and murder. And you can only imagine white people trying to exploit the Native Americans. So that's what it's about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would say I think there's a lack of quality movies that are going to be released for the next several months. I can't think of anything else that I would be looking forward to seeing. I will say this, Paul, I don't have very good hopes about that movie, the new Martin Scorsese movie, because if you ever watch a trailer for a movie and the one thing that they always mention is Academy Award winner or Academy Award nominee, so-and-so, it's usually a telltale sign that it's a bad movie.
I will.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's a nice one, Steve. Hey, I want to bring up
a good point.
Kenny told me this story where he's about to tell about 25 years ago when I first heard the story. And this movie, the story of Kenny's is really good if you happen to have been to Disney World. So I'm going to just let Kenny launch into this story.
What about Disney World?
Isn't it where this happened, the story you're about to tell?
No, it happened in Montgomery.
Oh, I thought you told me it happened at the you know what? I know somebody else who did this too.
Montgomery, Alabama.
Correct, yeah.
And
Yeah.
Disney World could be worlds apart, but
right.
All right, go ahead, Kenny.
Well, we're gonna wrap up this and then come back and I'll tell the story.
Oh, you can come back on the next show?
Correct. Which won't be a movie or a rock show. It'll just be
Storytelling with Kenny Harmon.
A wild card bonus episode. That's all.
Well, one thing we talked about I think it was on the rock show, was Quest for Fire.
Oh yeah.
It was actually this, but we mentioned it right at the end.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I saw that last week because I hadn't seen it since I was a kid.
Yeah. I never even saw the whole thing. I just saw bits and pieces of it 40 years ago.
It's currently available on YouTube on some bootleg channel on YouTube. So if you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. I mean, it just puts so many things in perspective.
Okay.
About with so many things we take for granted that, you go back 80,000 years and the main thing was fire and how vital and important that was for survival. And without it, people, died. So
right.
highly recommend it. It's a really great movie.
Okay.
And the things they would go through to get it and protect it and defend it. It's just.
And it shows the different level of thinking between there's Neanderthals in there, Cro-Magnon, Homo sapiens, and some other, very ape-like hominids. And I remember I was reading about this at the time that it was released. A lot of anthropologists said this is BS because there was no evidence that this many types of hominids coexisted at one time, certainly not 80,000 years ago. And now you see all this evidence that this come out over the last couple of years that they continue to find fossil evidence that goes back further and further all these species coexisted at one time.
Yeah, well, not only all the ones that you just named, but also that Ron Perlman species.
Well, the best comments I read were like, and Ron Perlman had no makeup for this movie.
Right.
And he didn't speak. Well, I mean, Michael Crichton put that to bed with Eaters of the Dead, which we all know became the movie The 13th Warrior, which I put that movie down 100 times, and Steve kept badgering me. Paul, it's really good. It's really good. I went, no. And I saw it, and I had to go back to Steve and eat a little crow.
Yeah, here's what happened. The movie was scheduled for release on some certain date or whatever, and then it got pushed back, and then it got pushed back again. And Paul and I even, this was during our every Friday night movie period. And we even said, like, this movie must be awful because apparently they keep showing it to test audiences who hate it. So they're going back and trying to change it. So anyway, it's finally released. And I think it was in and out of the theaters quick, but Paul finally calls me and goes, "You're not going to believe it. The 13th Warrior is pretty good. And I've got it on DVD." And I go, "Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even know if I want to agree with this." So he brings it over. We watched it, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how good it was.
Steve kept badgering me, and I was like, I think we watched it together, and I was like, "Oh my God!" As soon as I realized what's happening,
right?
Yeah,
I wish.
Go ahead, Steve.
They would release a director's cut, because that movie still feels like it's kind of short, and you feel like, okay, they definitely chopped this up in the studio somehow.
Well, the beginning of the movie where he's in the boat for like 35 seconds, and then they switch to where, then his background where he grows up, and but there's a lot of scholarly debate about that book. Even Ad Fadlan, this Arab guy, this Iraqi guy who wrote it, because they had written language and we did not. White European people didn't have written language. And so, like you guys both said, they found these caves in Lascaux and France, these other places where the Neanderthals and the humans died together.
Yep.
And in the back of the book, it says we all have, like, I forgot where Michael Crichton says some percentage of our DNA is
some people have like 4 or 5% or something like that.
That's why
it might be kind of high, but
you see people that are shorter in stature and thicker. He's like, you can see these people when you're walking through the mall.
Right.
Like,
right.
Wow.
Right.
So anyway.
Okay, guys, we got our warning a couple of minutes ago, so let's go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll come right back then and do the little story thing. Anybody have any final comments, or you want to give out any honorary Oscars?
Yeah, I want to give honorary Oscar to Ray Dawn Chong.
Oh, okay, perfect.
She walks around naked in that Quest for Fire, and
all she's got to do.
All she got. Well, and she does her normal duties.
Okay.
And,
okay.
And Everett McGill is one of the few movies where he's a good guy.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the hero. And Steve's right. All these different. I was like, wow, that must be Cro-Magnon, and those movies, Neanderthal. It's really cool how they do it. And those actors, you gotta give them credit. They were in mud and this gross eyes, like, oh
yeah,
my.
I know. I just wonder, like, did they not like wash their hair for like 6 months? It looked.
Why bother?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I will say this one thing about the 13th Warrior. They did the best interpretation of how somebody picks up another person's language.
I agree with that.
In the course of that movie, because he's from Baghdad.
Right.
And then he goes and meets up with the Vikings, and the way they do that, and they're like, "How did you learn our language?" And he's like, "I listened."
And he calls the guy, at least I know who my father is, you pig-eating son of a whore.
Yes.
Like, they all get really mad at him.
And Antonio Banderas says, "I listened."
I listened.
All right. Well, look, I'm going to give my honorary Oscar to the 13th Warrior then, because I thought that was a really good movie.
Oh, yep.
John
Steve,
McTiernan.
I give Steve credit. I badgered Steve about things, and he badgered me about that.
Okay. All right. Then we're going to wrap this up. This is the Great Classic Movie Debate. I'm Kenny.
I'm Paul.
I'm Steve.
If you happen to be watching, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our sister channel, The Great Classic Rock Debate. Until we meet again, we will see you next time.